you are excited about the pregnancy, but soon after that excitement is gone, because now it switches from being an excitement to being a survival mode. Every single day you're just trying to survive, you're just trying to stay alive. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ezisani and this is Open Diary with Ezi. As promised, today is Womanhood Wednesday. As I said previously, I will be releasing a new episode every single Wednesday with issues that relate to us women, mostly from my experience, just sharing the things that I have gone through and the things that I'm still going through, the good and the bad, with the hope that it can help someone out there. So today's episode, it is quite an interesting one. It might get a little bit emotional because it is something that I personally went through, but we're doing it. We are doing it. Otherwise, guys, don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and share this channel with other people, because I'm sure other people would love to know about me, right? All right. So today's topic, okay. Okay. Today's topic is a condition called Hyperemesis Gravidarum, which is a condition in pregnancy that other women go through. So you have a lot of women who have a normal pregnancy where they can do fun activities, fun active things. They are still themselves and they basically still operate as normal. And then we have women with this condition, like me, in both my pregnancies, where you have Hyperemesis Gravidarum. For those who are wondering what that is, it's a condition where you have extreme nausea, extreme vomiting, which can also be life-threatening. In most situations, most women end up opting to abort because it ends up being a life and death situation between you and your child. But in some situations, some women go through it. And to be honest with you, I don't judge those who make a decision to abort. I don't judge those who make a decision to keep their babies. At the end of the day, it's an individual decision based on what the person is going through in their body. It's different with every person. But at the end of the day, it is quite a life-threatening condition. So I think let me start here. So when I got pregnant with my son back in 2014, I started vomiting. I started being nauseous around 6 weeks or so. And because it was my first pregnancy, I did not know what to expect. So that being said, I started vomiting, and then I would go to a pharmacy and then they would give me pills and they will say to me, no, try ginger and crackers, they should do the trick. I tried all of that. Nothing worked. At that time, I was doing an internship. I found it impossible for me to wake up every day to go to work, but I had to. My career was just starting. I could not afford to say, I'm quitting my job and I'm just going to sit at home. So after that, it continued up until 6 months. I was still vomiting like, it's not you vomit sometimes, no, it's every single day. When you wake up, you vomit. When you brush your teeth, you vomit. When you walk, you feel so nauseous. When you stand, you can't stand for too long. Why? Because you start to lose weight. Your body is not getting the nutrients that it's supposed to get. You can hardly keep anything down, like you can hardly eat, even to a point where drinking something liquid like water was a luxury that I could not afford. So you get to a point where it's just about survival. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to wait a few years before having another child, because I'm sure that condition was caused by something. At that time, I didn't really have things like medical aid for me to do tests and really get to understand what that condition was. I didn't even know it. I thought, I'm just one of those people that got bad luck with their pregnancy. Cool. 6 years later, me and my husband decided that we are having another child. And to tell you, I was prepared. Like, you know, when you are prepared to the core, from, you know what, I'm going to believe for a different gender. I'm going to believe for a different kind of pregnancy. You know, that whole, it's all in your mind kind of situation. I trained my mind and I said, you know what, this pregnancy is going to be a smooth sailing. Hey, all right. I found out that I'm pregnant. In fact, I found out that I was pregnant actually a week before my periods. That's how I found out I was pregnant. I went to my mother-in-law and we bought amagwinya. Amagwinya is fat cooks. And I could smell the oil. You know when you can smell the oil? And I was like, no, man, why am I smelling the oil of the magwinya? And then next thing, when I came back, I decided to test because we had been trying for about 3 months. So on the 3rd month, I got pregnant. So when I came back, I decided to test, and there it was. It was positive, and my husband was at work. I could not wait for him to come back home. He came back home. I surprised him with it, and we were both so happy because it was something that we really wanted. We felt we were ready for a second baby. Okay. Week 1, week 2, week 3, we're fine. You know what? I'm even positive now. I'm like, yeah, and I found out I was pregnant. Nothing is happening. So this pregnancy is going to be different. The kickstart of week 6, I woke up that morning so nauseous, and I thought to myself, no, man, it's just. And then the next thing, I was running to the bathroom to vomit, and right there, like right there and there, it clicked on my mind that that condition is coming back. And you know what the worst part is that it paralyzes you. It paralyzes your mind, your body, because you've been through that condition. So it's like playing back a movie, and you know what's coming after this and what's coming after this and what's coming after this. Whereas for me, the condition does not just come with the vomiting. It comes with constant spitting of saliva. The thing is, I don't know the name of that condition, but you can imagine every single day I have to walk around with a little bottle where I'm spitting saliva because I cannot bear the thought of swallowing my own saliva when I'm pregnant. No matter how much I try to train my mind and say, nah, swallow, just swallow without thinking that you're swallowing. I tried all of that and nothing worked. Up to a point where I had to accept that, you know what, I can't swallow my saliva. And it was the same thing with my son. So my second pregnancy just felt like playing back a movie that I have been in before. It felt like deja vu, like I've been here before. And I had been there before. So now, you are excited about the pregnancy, but soon after, that excitement is gone. Because now it switches from being an excitement to being a survival mode. Every single day, you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to stay alive. And it's not an easy thing to survive when you can't eat. I think that's when you get to realize and appreciate the littlest things. Things like cooking for my family, I couldn't do anymore. Standing for long, I couldn't do anymore. Bathing my son, I couldn't do anymore. Taking care of my husband was a luxury I could not afford. So you realize the little things that you take for granted, like driving to somewhere, I can't do anymore because at any time, especially with motion movement, I would just vomit. So it got to a point now that my husband had to step up and become both a mother and a father to our son. He had to remind himself how to cook because he knows how to cook, but when you're not cooking every day, it's not second nature to you like how it is with me. He had to learn how to cook. He had to learn how to take care of our son. He had to learn how to prepare our son in the morning. At that time, we didn't really have a helper because it was just the 3 of us. So we're doing fine. Then he learned all these things to a point where my heart would break for him because he was struggling between the exhaustion of work and trying to balance taking care of me and trying to balance taking care of our son. It was quite a lot. And at the time, I am just bedridden. I spent a long time just existing to a point where I couldn't even have a conversation with my family. I couldn't even have a conversation with my son because the more I talk, the more I would be spitting the saliva. And the more I spit, the more it ends up in me vomiting. Meaning that the best thing for me was to avoid talking. And I ended up doing that. I would avoid having a conversation. I would avoid talking on my phone. Any phone call that would come, I would just look at the phone. That's the point where your life gets to. So you are just at a condition where you are just existing. And the only thing that is pushing you is feeling the movement of the baby. I remember I felt the movement of my child quite early. It was around 12 weeks. Somehow I felt like that was God's way of saying, hey, you got this, I got you, keep going. And when I felt those movements, they were so real, and I was like, okay, I have to keep doing it for this little person that's inside of me. At the time, I didn't even know that it was a girl or a boy, but it didn't matter. All that mattered was I am carrying this child and I have to do the best that I can to keep this child alive. We had so many trips of in and out of hospital. There was a point where I spent a whole weekend, I couldn't eat. I was weak. I was so weak that even my husband didn't know what to try anymore. There was a week where I couldn't drink water, but I would chew ice at times and it would help at least to hydrate me. But I wouldn't want to chew too much of it because then that liquid would come right back up. And you know when you're vomiting first thing in the morning and you're vomiting bile. Bile is that green liquid that you vomit if you vomit before eating anything. That was my daily life, to a point where it was exhausting because you knew what to expect on the next day and you are sitting there thinking to yourself, I still have to go through this for 9 months. And there's nothing else you can do. At that point, I wasn't a mom. I wasn't a wife. I was just a human being and a human incubator who was existing to make sure the little person inside of me stood a better chance to survive. So one day, my husband took me to emergency. It was bad. It was so bad that I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, I was just weak. And when we got there, I went to the hospital where my gynecologists work, and immediately when I described all the symptoms, at the time I didn't even know what condition I have. For me, I was just like, first trimester. Even with my last pregnancy, it was like this for the whole of 9 months. So it's just the same condition, but I didn't realize it had a name. When I got there and I described everything to him, and he's like, to me, you have HG. And I'm like, what is HG? He's like, no, it's Hyperemesis Gravidarum, which is a condition, which is a very rare condition that only few women go through. And it's unfortunate that it has no medicine. Like, there is no solution for it. It has no cure. So you just have to go through 9 months and try and survive. And I remember that first time when I went to the hospital, I stayed for a whole week. At that time, my husband and my son are surviving without me, and they had to. And I love the fact that they literally became best friends, because my boy used to be a mama's boy. But it would break my heart that I couldn't have conversations with my family like I used to, and I couldn't be a mom to him like I used to. But I knew it was a situation that no one had control. So I stayed at the hospital, and they would put drips for hydration because I was quite dehydrated. And they would try this nausea medication on drip, and it would work wonders. When I'm there, I would order food, and they were so considerate of the things that I could eat and couldn't eat. So even whatever that was on the menu, if I would request something and say, can I please try this because I know this will not work, they were willing to do that. And that's how amazing that hospital was. All right, a week later, I was discharged. Because I was constantly on drips for hydration and to stop the nausea, I expected the same feeling when I get home, a feeling of relief. As much as I was still vomiting, there was relief. It wasn't as bad and as heavy as it was when I was at home. Okay, I get home. First day, I feel a little bit okay. Second day, once everything wears off my system, it's like it comes back 3 times worse. I think the worst part was, as much as I had the condition with my son, with my daughter, it was worse. And there was this assumption that because it is worse with this pregnancy, it's a boy again. Because most people would be like, no, I'm sure if it was a girl, it wouldn't be like this. I remember when we were 4 months, we went for our scan, and when I heard my daughter's heartbeat, nothing else mattered. It felt like whatever that I was feeling I could go through it 10 times just so that I can meet that heartbeat. And it was amazing. I came back positive. Every single time when we went to the doctor, my husband had to drive me because I couldn't drive. So when we came back, I was positive. My husband even took me to a restaurant, we had lunch. But by the time I came back, I was exhausted because just that activity alone of just going out or just staying in a car was exhausting. Because remember, my body is not getting enough nutrients because I can barely eat most of the things. All right. And then from there, we pushed that pregnancy. But I remember I went through an episode of depression and I didn't even realize it. But you know, when you're just on that mode of, okay, get through today so that you can get through tomorrow. Okay, you did it today, you can still do this tomorrow. You are just focused on survival. And that's all I did. I was just surviving. But as much as we were living, 3 of us in the house, I was non-existent. Most of the times I was in bed. Most of the times I was sleeping. Most of the times I'm just quiet because I can't talk much. I'm so grateful because when I was pregnant, my big sister was also pregnant. And she had her own situation, but she didn't have this. But she was so supportive. Like, she was supportive. I would call her and I would just cry. I would sit on my own and I would just cry. Because you question, God, why can't I have a normal pregnancy like other people? All the things I planned, from family photo shoot to everything I had planned, I couldn't do because physically my body wouldn't allow me to do. And I'm so grateful because it was during COVID and we're working from home, because to this day, I don't know if we had to go to the office every day, what I was going to do, because I couldn't drive. I couldn't stay in a place where there are a lot of people because I could smell everything. And then next thing, I'm running to the bathroom. The constant spitting of saliva meant I was constantly holding a bottle. And it is embarrassing. And you meet other women in the mall and they're working so normal. I couldn't, a simple trip of going to the mall, I couldn't do. If I do that, I'm exhausted. It had to be, we are going straight to that shop and then we get out and that's it. And I would look at other women and I would feel so mad inside to say, God, look at that woman. She's working as normally as if she's not pregnant. And here I am. I can hardly stand. Here I am. I'm struggling with my pregnancy. But at the end of it all, I would constantly remind myself that, remember the gift that is coming at the end. When I would look at my son, I would be reminded that the first day when I met him, I fell in love with him. All the things that I had been going through of spitting and vomiting, none of it mattered. So I think the worst part is knowing that there's no cure and that you have to get through it. So I remember part of the discussion that we had with my husband was, this pregnancy is hard. And as much as we had hoped that it would be different from the first one, it's not. And what is the one thing that you would love to do for good memory with this pregnancy that would at least make it worthwhile? And I said to him, can we book for a 4D scan for somebody to come here at home and do a 4D scan where all of us can see the baby? I feel like that would motivate me. And when I was 8 months pregnant, we booked and that lady came. She was amazing. And then after that, she even offered to give us a nice photo shoot. And she did. And that was the only photo shoot I got because I could not imagine being around anyone. I could not imagine sitting doing makeup. I couldn't imagine worrying about outfit. None of that mattered. I just wanted to survive the pregnancy. And the birthing part of it, I gave birth at a hospital called Genesis. Unfortunately, it has closed down. That hospital specialized in natural birth. And oh my goodness, guys, they gave me the best experience that I could have ever asked for. It was an amazing birthing experience of natural birth where even my husband was present, where when I was 38 weeks to 39, I said to, I said to my doctor, I can't take it anymore. Because at that point, the vomiting, the spitting, everything was worse. Everything was worse. And for those wondering, is it just spitting normal saliva? No. It's spitting saliva that has a smell of something you can't explain. Almost like you're spitting part of the amniotic fluid. I don't know if that makes sense. but it wasn't normal saliva. And my midwife, 38 to 39 weeks, she induced me. And it was an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience. I gave birth with the bottle next to me, of course, still vomiting, of course, but none of it mattered. I was so excited to finally meet my daughter. And the moment the baby comes out, everything else goes. Everything else stops. No more vomiting, no more spitting. It's like this relief that goes out as the baby goes out. And it was the same thing with my son. So when other women talk about their experience of pregnancy and the beauty of it and how active they are and how they're able to do all of these things, I can't relate. For me, pregnancy is related to survival mode. It's related to a matter of life and death. It's related to hardship, testing my marriage, testing my family, because that's what it ends up being. And you know how good it felt after giving birth to finally be able to have a conversation with my husband without avoiding him, or a conversation with my son, and he can come back from school and tell me about how his day was at school. I became a stranger to my own family, but I'm so grateful that I had a husband who was supportive. As much as this was also hard for him, he did the best that he could under the circumstances. I remember I was so heartbroken when I had to miss my son's graduation. And there was nothing I could do because I couldn't be around people without vomiting. So my husband stepped in and he made sure that my son did not feel that gap of me not being there. And I'm so glad that my son was also at an age where he understood. He understood that mom has this condition and mom is gone for a while, but she'll be back once the baby is here. And I think part of the things that are not spoken about the most is rebuilding a relationship with food after giving birth when you have HG. It's hard. Remember, mentally you convince yourself, because there was so much I couldn't eat during my pregnancy. Now it's time for me to eat everything. If I tell you one of the things that I can tolerate during my pregnancies with both my son and my daughter is Coca-Cola, Coke. I am not a Coke person. I don't drink cold drink on a regular, like I'm just not a cold drink person. But that was one of the things that could quench my thirst. That was one of the things that I would drink and they wouldn't come right back up. So yeah, I remember also there was a time when I survived a whole week eating only mangoes. My husband would go to Pick n Pay and buy a box of mangoes. And those ladies at Pick n Pay even knew he had a pregnant woman at home, because they were like, the trend of you coming every week buying a box, this is not normal. So yeah, you get to a point where you just want to survive. And then now after giving birth, your relationship with food is tainted because you just want to stuff in everything that you couldn't stuff, and your body is no longer used to eating that much. So if you're not careful, you'll find yourself depressed, overeating, gaining weight and stuff like that. So I had to train my mind to be able to say, hey, you survived this hard time. You survived that ordeal, but you have to find yourself again. You have to find the balance. So if someone comes to me and asks me if I would get pregnant with another baby, I don't know. Is it something I think about? I sit and think about? No. It's something I would wish to avoid and pretend it does not exist and tell myself I have 2 kids, I'm okay, but I don't know what the future holds. But I do know whatever the future holds, I am going to experience the same ordeal. And I don't know what better way to prepare for that. I do wish that at the time I had considered going for therapy. I think it's something that I take for granted. I should have considered talking to a professional, talking to someone, and just explaining what I was going through, because I was in a very sad space. So yeah, guys, when you see someone extremely bad in pregnancy, vomiting and stuff, stop suggesting ginger and cracker. It doesn't work for everyone. Unfortunately, for some people, their pregnancies come with conditions that they don't have control of. And if you're one of the lucky ones who have a normal pregnancy, then you are blessed. But for some of us, pregnancies end up being a matter of life and death. And you have to fight and to fight for your life. And every single day, imagine the face of that little baby that you're going to meet, even though you don't know what they will look like. But just that image of feeling the baby move was enough to push me to say, you know what, I got this. I got this. I just need to push one more day, one more day, one more day. So, yeah, it's not an easy condition, but it's a condition that exists, and it's unfortunate that worldwide they haven't found a cure. I remember during my pregnancy, I even found a Facebook group, 2 of them, and women all over the world, all over, going through this condition. So you realize it's not because I'm black, it's not because she's white, it's not because you eat this, you eat that, it's not because of your environment, your climate. It's just a condition that comes with the body. And it's something that I pray that my daughter doesn't inherit from me. Because with me, my mom says I inherited it from her. But with her, she didn't experience it with all the pregnancies, just some of them. So yeah, guys, being a woman is not easy, but we are strong. We are strong, and there is nothing that we cannot overcome. So if right now you are going through an HG pregnancy, I cannot tell you that it gets easier. I cannot tell you that it gets better. It doesn't. But I can tell you it's worth it. Meeting your baby for the first time is worth it. Looking at those little eyes, those angelic eyes, it's definitely worth it. Keep fighting every day. Go see a professional if you have to. It was so hard that during my pregnancy, I couldn't even find that much information on videos or YouTube videos that could help me. So hence I felt, why not create a video about your experience? You never know who just wants that hope at this moment. You never know who may experience it in the future for them to know what to do. If you can afford, get a personal nurse who can come to your home to do hydration drips. That is something that I wish I had thought of sooner, because the whole reason of going to the hospitals was the hydration drips, because you need to constantly be hydrated because you are dehydrated due to not eating and not being able to drink liquid as you would. Consider asking your family for help. If it means you get your mom or your mother-in-law to come stay with you guys and take care of the child, you do that. Having a supportive partner is everything, and I am one person who can attest to that. I wouldn't have survived without my husband, and him being able to take care of our son and take care of the household and take care of us was everything. So yeah, I would definitely suggest see a therapist, go for marriage counseling, because pregnancies affect our marriages in different aspects, whether you have a condition or you don't. Just being pregnant on its own, it's something that does affect marriage, and you need to learn to talk about things in a professional environment. So yeah, guys, today my daughter is 2 years, and I finally felt I was ready to talk about this experience. But at the end of it all, if I had to do it all over again with both my kids, would I do it? Without a doubt. I love my kids, and I understand that bringing them here into this world is not an easy task for me, but it is what it is, and God always sees me through it. So yeah, guys, that is the topic for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I really do appreciate you guys watching. Bye for now.